Ah,
So
which
we're
which wait
joined
which
from the Garden State, Jersey City, New Jersey, by my friend, founder of Empowering Greatness. I'm sorry, Rasheeda Frazier. This is our entrepreneurship class here at Velma Jackson High School. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for fitting us in your busy schedule.
you are so welcome, Greg. Happy to be here.
Now, obviously, we want to talk about all the cool things you do with Empowering Greatness. Really, such a cool concept. Um, and but it's cool because the way it started, you were a volunteer high
Hmm.
school guidance counselor talking to kids about going to college, and you got the answer that I get as a teacher a lot.
Hmm.
So talk about that and how that kind of sparked your interest in this and how you turned it into such a business that's put you all over the country.
So, ironically, it was my son's school. His school lacked him and my daughter. Their school kind of lacked additional assistance in the guidance counselor department. And I had some free time, and I said, "Okay, what do you need?" Right? And they were like, "Well, we've got so many kids graduating, and we need help with, the Common App, with College Board, and all the things." And I said, okay. So I'm helping them on their path to collegiate studies. And as I was talking to the kids, developing a relationship, it was really simple. The conversation began. So, what do you want to go to college for? What schools are we going to look for? How are we going to fix your resume for the college applications? And some of them were very excited. They were like, yes. And then some of them were like, I don't want to go to college. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And they were like, I don't know, but I don't want to go to college. And I was like, well, you got to do something. I said, because a high school diploma is only going to get you but so far. And the conversation then began with some of them were like, oh, well, I'm going to just start a business. I'm a hustle. I could do this out of I've seen things where people do things out of their car. And I'm like, started laughing, and they would always say, Miss Rashida, why are you laughing at us? And I go, because that's so pie in the sky. I was like, let's talk about what that really looks like. And so I started to teach them about what business ownership and entrepreneurship really was. And the more I talked about it, the more I realized that this is a viable pathway for some of these students that really do have that mindset and that spirit, but they just don't have the education and information to be able to put it forth. So that's how it kind of started, just from simple help conversations, and then that aha moment of, oh, I need to help these children more.
Yeah, and you started helping their parents and their parents'
Uh-huh.
friends, and then it became a
Yeah,
full-time business. Now, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because even though this is an entrepreneurship class, being in high school, it's important to talk about decisions after you graduate. And I've
right.
got ninth, 10th, and 11th grade in here with me today. I don't have any seniors, but I'm with you. Nothing is more frustrating than hearing a senior in high school tell me they don't know what they're going to do when they
That part.
graduate.
Hmm.
And if college is in the plans, by all means, we're going to support them in that. We
That's
have
right.
some great institutions here in Mississippi, also across the South, both HBCU and PWI. And I mean, some of them have great paths, and we've had some do some great things. But some of
Hmm.
them that are kind of on the fence,
Yeah.
that's fine. You can go and get a career certificate and then become an entrepreneur with a trade. You can, if you've got the hustle mindset
That's right.
and you've got the sales skills and the plan, you can jump straight into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So it really is about that mindset and having that thought of, hey, what problem can I solve? What can I do? What can I offer that people will pay money for?
Absolutely. And I like how you said that people can pay money for.
Yeah, and something I always say is if people will buy it, you need to sell it. And if people will pay it, you need to charge it.
That's right.
Something that I see because we've had, and they've all got their own business concepts. And we've had several students come through this class going into business for themselves, great at what they do, really cool marketing,
Hmm.
great customer service, and they
Hmm.
start posting their prices, and I want to faint
Yes.
because they're in the 16-year-old mindset saying, "Well, I never made more than about $9 an hour. I can't afford this, so I don't need to charge too much." But then I immediately tell them, "You're not charging enough."
That's right.
So And I'm sure you see that a lot with some of the young people that you work with because we've just done some pricing, and honestly, I think they did a pretty good job on it. But you know, as you start matriculating through high school, you get older, and you start wanting to, even if you just have a side business,
Mm.
how is pricing so psychological and so scientific to stay viable and still make a profit?
Oh, that's such a great question. Um, Pricing is the crux of what makes your business succeed or fail, right? And I think the mindset around pricing is that a lot of the students, even a lot of the adults, they're looking at it from a lens of what would I pay for? And you are not your ideal client. You are not the one that you are making this product for. And once you understand that, you will realize that there are people out there that will pay for what it is that you have and will pay top dollar for it because it's something that they need. I always reference either need or want. When I talk to people about pricing, I always say, are you pricing for you or are you pricing for those who want what you have? And it makes them stop and think because they don't psychologically, when you think about pricing, you think about it from a consumer lens. I am the consumer. I am the one who's buying. You don't think about it from a business lens, which is I have this product and I need to be able to sell this amount of this product and or service to be able to make a profit, to be able to pay my staff and let alone myself and enjoy the fruits of the work that I have done. And it's a learned mindset, right? It's a mindset that has to be learned and it has to be nurtured. So it's key to start that with conversations around what you're identifying with when you're looking at numbers. And it's also the relationship with numbers. A lot of these students who are having this mindset, they don't have a good relationship with numbers, with money, with math. And it's because they've never had it, right? Or
Yeah.
they've been taught very skewed views around what money and finances really look like. And that you got to hustle for it and you have to rob Peter to pay Paul and all those colloquialisms that we've heard growing up that are still very prevalent today and in our households. That if you don't have this type of job or this type of something, that you're not going to make any money and it has to be steady and all of those things. So a lot of times they get scared and they price based off of that fear and that misinformation.
Yeah, and you just hit on something we're going to get to in a second because I definitely want to talk about the need for the education of small business owners because you'll never hear me argue that the
Yeah.
resources were not there. But something else that you talk about in your and there's all kind of clips of you online and you have such great conversations about this. But something else that you mentioned is that people, you know, and look, I'm with you. Teenagers, when you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you want things to be quick. You want it to be instant.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I know they've heard me say this 100 times. It just drives me crazy. I'm a big fan of Jasmine Sullivan, but she has the song that I just want to pull my hair out because she goes, "I'm going to move to Atlanta, open a business, and be rich." And I'm like, there's a lot of steps that need to take place
That
first.
need to take place
And
in
you say
between.
things like, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, look, that's great because it's a lot of freedom, but you don't need to. You know, I have people say they want to open a salon, but they've never worked in a salon before. They want to open a
Exactly.
restaurant, but they've never worked in a restaurant before.
That's right.
You know, something that I've seen is so vital to somebody that wants to get into a business is learn the business first.
You
You
got to
know,
learn
you know, you can have the entrepreneurship classes, but you've got to have it, you know, some experience of knowing what you're getting into. And
it.
along the same lines, you can't just be good at something and expect you know how to run a business.
Nope.
And another friend of this class, and I got to send you this clip. She is a doctor here in the one of the only black GI doctors in the state of Mississippi, but just a trailblazing physician. She said, I learned, she wanted to start her own practice.
Mm-hmm.
Said, I learned everything how to take care of patients. I knew everything about the GI system from top to bottom. I could save people's lives, but I knew
Mm.
nothing about how to run a business.
That's right.
So there's so much education on both sides of that. So
Mm-hmm.
where are you seeing people lacking? Because look, I'm with you. People want things quick. They want it to be easy, and they just want to get to the fun stuff that they see on TikTok. They don't want to
That's
do the
true.
planning and the learning.
Yeah, and that's the ugly side of business or the unattractive side, if you will, of business, and that's all that kind of rudimentary day to day foundational work that, but it's also the most important part. And when you think about, I call it the fast food era, right? Everybody wants it fast. They want to walk into Burger King and have it your way. You know, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, it's going to come in a neatly wrapped box and bow. You're going to be able to open it, eat it, enjoy it. It is going to be instantaneous. And nobody realizes that what they see online, what they see inside of the TikToks and the Instagrams and all of these quote unquote famous people and influencers and is that they spent years, decades learning and understanding their craft to get to the point where they are today. And they never show you the ugly side of that. They never show you the unattractive, that hard work and grit that it takes. They just show you the finished product. So everybody thinks it's easy, and it's not. I always tell my students and even a lot of my adult mentees, um, keep your day job, learn and take the skills that you have from your day job, and then you put that into your business. If you want, get an internship, volunteer, learn the business that you want to do, and then you have the skill set to be able to do it. Right? You have to learn these things. You have to learn business. Business, if you do nothing else, business 101, right? What does that really look like? From all of the legal things and the incorporation and all of that stuff that's like, once I have that, no, small businesses are to me the bedrock of the world, and I stick by that. I stand by that. I always will. But here's one of the things: they're only the bedrock of the world if they can stay open. And a lot
Yeah.
of them close very quickly because they don't even know that they have to file a biennial report or that they have to file taxes, and actually show a profit, not always a loss. You will get audited and they will shut your business down. Just little things. And once you get the understanding of some of these very basic just business practices, then and you implement them, then you can go off and do all the greatness that you want to do.
Big time. And look, and that's what I'm skipping ahead. I want to go back to something, but because you mentioned it, it's a good segue because I was quoted in a magazine a couple years ago by
Mm-hmm.
saying rural communities in Mississippi, all over the country, especially rural black communities, were left behind for decades when it came to resources,
Mm-hmm.
education, and things of that nature. And I'll stand by it, and I still believe it to this day. But just because grandparents and parents may not have had access to something, there's never been a better time to be a business owner than now. There's more grants, there's more funding, there's more technology, there's more markets that haven't even been tapped into yet. So and you've talked about this a little bit too. Kids think, well, I guess I'm just going to own a business because uh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything else. Well, you can't have that mindset. And you speak a lot about the mindset of a business owner and how
Mm-hmm.
you've got to be confident and you've got to be sure that what you have is going to be
That's right.
successful.
That's right. Because if it's just I want to open up a business so that I don't have to go to school, you don't need to open up a business. If it's I'm gonna do this just because I don't want to do that, wrong answer, right? That business will fail because you're not even passionate about it. You don't have a mindset for it. You don't see that as a viable need. You see it as an escape. And a lot of times, those escape businesses turn into very heavy jobs. So all you're doing is creating a job for yourself. And if that's the case, why are you going to kill yourself to work 40, 60, 80, 100 hours a day when there's only 24 hours in a day? And you can do your 40 hours, come home, get your paycheck steady every 2 weeks, and like do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, something I did want to talk about, and I know they get sick of me talking about this, but it's my big soapbox is being able to speak, articulate, communicate, sell, and having those communication skills. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, man. And look, as an entrepreneur yourself, you love having people work for you that think like an entrepreneur. So
Yes, indeed.
you can have the entrepreneurial mindset and be an incredible employee and work your way up
Abs-
a ladder rather quickly.
Absolutely.
So, they just did their presentations before lunch and they do a great job and they think they don't, but they really do. And I know they haven't been brought up doing that as something new to them, but that is something that you can always improve on because when you're dealing with a customer, you've got to be able to communicate, and especially if you're dealing with something that they don't understand. You've
Right.
got to be able to sell things. You've got to be able to articulate things because, like, I'll have a young lady say, "Well, I'm just going to do somebody's hair." I said, "Well, you better explain how you're going to do it. You better explain how much money it costs,
That's right.
or I'm just going to have a body shop." Well, you better be able to tell somebody what's wrong with their car and how much it's going to cost.
That's
So
right.
being able to speak and articulate and sell your product and sell yourself, you can never stop practicing in that. So how important
Mhm.
is to start getting good at that now?
It's top of the line, right? It's when I say top of the line, like think about the ninth graders who are inside of your class, right? They're just starting out on their high school journey. They're trying to figure out life, but the more they talk about their aspirations, their dreams, what they want, all of the things that are happening, the better they get at understanding their next step. They then go into the 10th graders. So now you got a bunch of 10th graders. They done been through the ninth grade. They started to talk about, articulate, and figure out, okay, next moves. I'm ready to get to that next level. So they start digging a little deeper. Uh, they've got to get up in front of the classes. They're doing internships. It's more competition come 10th grade, right? And then 11th grade hits, and it's like, wait, I'm one off of getting out of here, and it really starts to hit home. If you don't start getting that resume together, selling yourself, communicating your want, your desire, your need, who you are, right? They don't realize that they're going through a brand journey, even in high school, of beginning to shape who they are, the things that they want to do, how they want to do it, and that follows them from ninth grade all the way to 12th grade. So if you get to 12th grade and you're at a point where you don't know and you can't confidently say, when I leave high school, I would like to do this. Now, whether you stay on that path or not is a no another conversation. But if you can't articulate that you want to do something, these are the reasons why, this is what I've done over the course of my high school career. That's the same thing when you open up a business, right? You opening up the business, you have this product or great service. Why do you have this product or great service? What is the story behind it? You have to be able to tell the story of this thing that you have. And that is what attracts people, not the actual thing. It's your story. I get clients because I tell my story. I articulate why this is so important to me. And they go, wow. And then they ask me some questions that I can honestly answer. And they go, oh, and she knows her stuff. I want to work with her,
Yeah.
right? But it starts with the story. It starts with my ability to communicate who I am, to be confident and passionate about what I know and what I do. And it from ninth grade to 12th grade and even beyond as an adult, as a business owner, it's the same thing. So it's
Now,
very, very important.
oh, I'm telling, and everybody says the same thing, and they think I'm joking, but it is amazing how far it can take you being able
It
being a great
can.
communicator.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to get to their questions because they got some good ones, but I want to talk about empowering greatness because I love the way you describe it because you talk about once somebody comes to you, and you could tell us what all you do for a business, but when people can't use YouTube University and come to you and say, "Well, I saw this on Google." You know, you're giving them. And I love how you said it's almost like school. I give them assignments, and then we work through it. So, talk about
Yeah.
how your concept works, who you work with, and the type of mindset your client has to have be successful when they're working with you.
So how I work with my clients is really simple. I take them through a journey. I take them through a journey of I call it it's the butterfly phases, right? So I take them through the journey of the caterpillar where it's like we really go through all that they've learned, all that they know, all the information gathering. It's like, okay, you've got all this information. Let me see how you're putting it into practice. And then we go into this cocoon. Working with me is like being in a cocoon. This is where we break everything down, dissect it, we look at it because a lot of times business owners have these amazing ideas for their business, but they lack the right structure. They're not utilizing their teams correctly, and their leadership mindset is a little skewed on how they think they should be functioning, not only in their business, but working on their business. And then once we get all of that straight and we train up and we do all of the stuff, then it kind of manifests into this beautiful butterfly. And then they see where all the pieces are in place. Everything is primed for scale. Everything is primed to grow. Their teams are communicating better. They themselves, even if they're a solo entrepreneur, can see where their holes and gaps are and how better to fill them. And then by the end, their business is scaling and it is growing. And that is what empowering greatness does. It literally takes the inside of you, all the greatness that you have as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as whatever service or product that you have that you want to get out here. And it makes it so that one is contingent upon the other. If you are not a great leader, you are not going to have a great product or service because you're not going to be able to push it out there the way that it needs to. If you have a great product, but you're a wonky leader, right? Or if you don't have a great product, but you're a great leader, but you don't have the capacity to see how to improve upon your product or service. So it's all intermingled. And a lot of times it's blocked by pure passion, and the whole goal around helping with mindset first and then diving into very practical tactile things around their systems, around their leadership, and around their teams is simply because they have to be able to take that passion out of it and look at data to be able to really move everything forward, right? And then once they have that, they can then we can add back in all the passion and everything. That's the sauce on top that help drives it. That's the engine. But if that foundation is crazy and you're full steam ahead on all passion, that tanks a business faster than anything else because there's no processes, there's no systems, there's no operations. So, in
Wow.
essence, empowering greatness takes the chaos of CEO's mind and CEO's business and helps to create clarity and harmonious interaction for it to be able to move forward. And I do that by tackling what are the base problems that they're having within their systems, their ability to sell, with their finances, all of the things that make up the core of a business, including its leadership and the team or lack thereof, in case we need to build that up.
Yeah, and it's all about initiative. And I had another guest on this platform a couple years ago who had written a book,
Mm-hmm.
and she said she got her idea for her marketing business because she said I was literally at a book show. People
Mm-hmm.
have spent years of their life writing these books, and they're just sitting behind the table with
That's
the
right.
book sitting there. And she was like, that's when a light bulb went off and said, people aren't going to come find me. I've got to go out there and be
That's right.
tenacious and be the one that markets myself. Because, the cool thing about entrepreneurship is that there's not a lot of factors that depend on other people.
No,
At the end of the day, things things that you do right or wrong is what's going to determine the fate of the
that's right.
business. Because and look, I know you deal with a lot of young people. I deal with young people every day. This generation, not necessarily the ones I have in this room with me, but this generation loves to blame other people. And entrepreneurship, the only person that you can blame is yourself,
Is yourself. You are the
good or
common
bad.
denominator.
Exactly. Well, I do have some great questions. Get as many of these as I can. I like this first one. This is Avery Harris. She's in 10th grade, one of our champion archers
Oh,
here
wow.
at Vilma Jackson, also a volleyball player. And she asked, what does a typical day look like in your role?
I get up at 6:30 every morning. Actually, I get up at 6:15 every morning. I sit on the side of my bed for 15 minutes. I pour libation, meaning that I actually pray and pour libation into a plant. I thank God for my day. I meditate, and my meditation lasts till about 7:30, and then I am up. I go make a protein shake. I shower, and then I literally sit down in my office. I have no meetings. My meetings don't start till 10 unless I do need to have them earlier, but I utilize that time between 7:30 and 10 o'clock when most of my first meetings start to actually just kind of get my day together, right? I'm thinking about my to-do list. Who am I meeting with? Who do I need to call? And then my meetings usually stop somewhere around 2 o'clock. And terms of, and these are business meetings, like to generate more business and more revenues for my company. And then after that, I take a break. I go outside, I go for a walk. Sometimes I come back and I do absolutely nothing. And then sometimes I have client meetings in the evenings because most of my clients it's better for them for after work hours. And I'll do my client meetings on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday evenings. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, depending on the cycle, sometimes I'm teaching a class or I'm conducting workshops. And this is cyclical, but that's kind of like a typical day. And but I get a lot of time to rest, breathe, think, because that's just how I structure my days.
Well, that's a great pro of being an entrepreneur, which we started this class talking about.
Yep.
At the end of the day, for the most part, you make your own schedule. And you know, I have
Every
so
single
many
day.
people say, "Well, I want to set my own hours." Well, you can do that as an entrepreneur, but you got to be able to manage it well.
You have to be able to management well, and I always say it's not just about time management, it's about energy management. If you know that you work best at a certain hour, that's when you get your work done. I get more done between the hours of 10 and 2 than I would any other time of the day because I know when I wake up, if I don't do my little morning ritual, I'm not having a good day. My brain is not functioning. I cannot start opening my mouth and talking to someone if I have not had my protein shake for the day. That's like people with their coffee. They got to have that cup of joe to get their morning going. But I also realized that my energy, so I was able to map out the times of day when I'm the most. That that middle of the day where I go for a walk or I take a nap is vital. I don't
Yeah,
need to be thinking I have to turn off. Why? Because I know in the evening I'm going to turn on again. So I space it where I know my peak hours are. And then I'm in bed every day by 10:30.
that's awesome. Now, I love this question. This is Zayden Mann. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "I've always wanted to go to New York. So, do you think being in the New York area makes your business more successful?"
No, I don't. I think you make your business more successful. It's about the work that you put into it. That business could be anywhere. It could be in the Midwest. It can be in on the West Coast, South, anywhere. There's a lot of hype around New York. And yes, New York, I will always rep it. That's where I'm from. Great. I'm so glad that I have business there. I think that it is definitely a different build and a different animal. And if you can, the song is true. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. But here's the thing, you could also just make it anywhere if that is
There
your
you go.
surrounding.
There
It
you
doesn't
go.
have to be New York. So even in Mississippi, where you guys are in the middle of, as Greg said when I first met him, in the middle of nowhere, you would be surprised. And it's probably an assignment that you guys need to have is to really start Googling entrepreneurs that really came from the middle of nowhere
Yeah.
that are
And
doing
we've
some
had some come
amazing
out of this
things.
very class.
That's right. So it really doesn't matter, and I don't think New York makes it or breaks it. I just think that it really has to do with who you are as the person and your driving, your tenacity, and how far you really want to move what it is that you have and how much you believe in it.
Yeah, and I definitely need to connect you with my friend in Montclair, New Jersey, Kendra Dancy, who works. She's a virtual accountant who works with small businesses. So,
Oh, nice.
uh,
Yes, that would be a great
yeah,
connect.
really need to connect y'all. But she says the same thing as her husband's got a job in New York, but she said I could do this anywhere. So
Yeah,
it really is
it really doesn't
a true
matter.
statement. I
Yeah.
got two more. This is Raheem Cole. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "What do you think are the most important qualities a successful entrepreneur has to have?"
Adaptability, open-mindedness,
Yep,
and a willingness to be wrong and to fail.
there you go.
Those are my top three because you have to be adaptable. You have to be able, things are not always going to go the way that you want to. So you have to know how to shift, pivot, and adapt to circumstances, right? You have to have an open mind because a lot of times entrepreneurship, business ownership, it's not about that direct line of it's going to go this. It is a roller coaster ride. You're going to go up, down, left, right. You're going to get turned around and inside out. And that's okay, right? And then you have to have an open mind for whatever comes because if you don't, you miss out on some of the most greatest opportunities because it doesn't fit into the silo that you're creating for your business. And then in terms of what was the last one I said?
Willingness to be wrong.
willingness to be wrong and to fail, yes. And that is because you learn a lot through your failures. And then you can adapt. And because you have an open mind to be able to actually improve upon and be better. And you almost want to fail because if you get it right out of the box, you're doing something wrong. That means you know everything. And if you do, please give me the secret sauce. I fail at least 3 times a day, and I love every minute of it because within that failure is discovery, and I'm able to discover other things that I didn't even think of because something didn't go right.
Awesome. Well, I got one more. This is Kaylin Bullock. She's in ninth grade, and she asked, "What is the biggest challenge that you see your clients struggle with today?"
Automation and systems, right?
Man, tell me about
We're
it.
in an AI world. Everything is automated, everything is systems, everything is becoming that fast food era, if you will, because people need you to be able to crank out your product and or your service faster. And a lot of people are still functioning in a very rudimentary, very paper driven way, where it's this one step to the next step to the next step. A lot of people struggle with automating their processes. A lot of people don't have the right processes and systems in place to be able to move their businesses forward. And then when I come in and I'm like, oh, do you have this? Is this in a manual? When somebody presses this button, what happens next? And they're like, oh, well, then I have to go. And I'm like, okay, but there's a way to actually fix that where it eliminates hand touch points. And once we get those, people start to realize how much more time that they have
Oh
to be
man.
able to actually run their business as
Yeah.
opposed to working in their business. And I realized that even at some of the bigger corporations and or nonprofits that I've worked for and worked with, some of their departments needed an upgrade. And
Yeah.
once we were able to go in, and again, my 3 pillars are always leadership, system, and teams. How do we get your systems to where your leadership can do what they need to do and your teams can do what they need to do? If you don't have the right systems and processes in place, your team usually is lacking behind because they're looking at leadership to tell them what to do, and leadership is lost because there's no key process in place.
Wow. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking
Oh,
some
you're
time
so
for us
welcome.
today. But a couple things before we go. Empoweringgreatness.com is the website. All of your
It's
social media stuff is.
actually Empower Great.
I'm sorry. Empower. I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad I asked. Empowergreat.com is the
Yes.
website. Great content on there. All the links to your social media stuff. Really cool stuff. And if anybody's interested in working with you, and look, and I always say this with every guest we have, even if they don't have a huge social media presence, I still encourage them to follow them because I'm like,
Yeah.
find something positive to put into your life. I
Absolutely.
like the celebrities and the athletes and everybody too, but I like to get people that are going to give me something that can give me a good idea. And that's what you guys do. And you got some great YouTube videos all over the internet where you're speaking. But the last thing before we go, and look, and we talked about this briefly before, and you will never hear me disagree with you on this. We need more black business owners. We need more
Yes, we
female
do.
business owners. And look,
Mhm.
and like I said, I even said it in a magazine, and I'll say it here online. The resources were not there for decades.
They weren't.
So I always say, just because you're the first to do something doesn't
Doesn't
mean
mean
you can't be the best at something.
that's right.
So as these kids start matriculating through high school, start making decisions,
Hmm.
start deciding what their path is going to be after they
That's right.
graduate, why do they need to have that mindset of saying, look, just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean I can't achieve it?
That's right. If you have the thought, a lot of things I always say, who gave the first person their PhD? The person who created it themselves.
Wow.
So if they can create a whole system of education and say this is what it is, and then give themselves the first PhD, and then have everybody else go through this rigmarole to get their PhD, then you can create something and be the first at it, mark it as something that is great, mark and have it take flight like everything else does.
That's awesome.
You don't have to wait for somebody to tell you that you're great because you already are. You got to
Yeah.
believe it first within yourself.
Man, you saying all the same things I say. I love it. Well, I know you got to get back to work. Thank you so much for fitting us
No,
in
you
your
are
busy
so
schedule.
welcome.
My friend, Rasheeda Frazier, all the way from Jersey City, New Jersey, the Garden State, right there on the Hudson River by New York City. We thank you so much for joining us today.
You are so welcome, Greg. Have a good one.
All right, talk to you soon, my friend.
Talk to you soon.